What villain could have won easily, but they fricked it up? Bane had broken Batman's back and could have easily killed him but let him live. Also Joker in Batman, Arkham City. Batman even said he would have saved him. But the Joker fricked himself. Not sure this works great regardless of the version you're referencing. At least for Bane specifically. In his debut in the comics, Bane succeeds in his goal to break Bruce Wayne and his downfall comes at the hands of a successor, Azrael, largely acting on his own. Wayne having been killed or not likely doesn't alter that resolution very much. Azrael probably goes off the rails even faster. But that was part of the reason he beat Bane to begin with. For the movie, Bane was under explicit orders from Talia not to kill him since she wanted him to suffer. Bane did his job. Of course, if you want to shift the argument to Talia being the one to screw herself over, that's a different story. Syndrome from The Incredibles was actually a very intelligent villain. He just shouldn't have had a cape. I'll argue that he could have pretty much done anything, but carefully design a robot so that it can slaughter nearly any super with the intention of staging a cheap fight. This is probably one of the best examples here. A lot of the responses I see are of villains facing problems that were largely out of their control, or that no reasonable person would think would be an issue. Syndrome totally fricked himself. With all that inventive brilliance, he wanted style over substance so much he didn't bother to consider how strategic a supersuit would have been. And he absolutely could have, and should have. He had info on every single super that he obviously spent a ton of time poring over. There's no excuse to not have come to that conclusion that a no-cape suit would have served him best. Any villain who does the leaves you be without finishing you off cliché. Come on really? Finish them off and you'll win. Boom. Done. Over it. I love that scene in Austin Powers with Scott where he's like, I have a gun in my room. You're really just going to leave him in there with one guard? Scar, if you're so big and bad just kill the kid yourself. You already killed his dad, finish the job dude. He played himself. I guess he didn't want Simba's body found with lion claw marks on it. But it's not like this is CSI, Pride Lands. Just kill him and feed the corpse to the hyenas. Edit. LOL at everyone repeating that hyenas don't eat lions. Lions don't have choreographed song and dance numbers either. This is Lion King we're talking about. This ain't exactly an accurate depiction of natural behavior. True that. Scar and Simba even had a conversation afterwards. So he totally had the opportunity. But he left it to hyenas, who he himself called idiots. Dr. Evil Colder just shot Austin Powers like Scott wanted to. Scott, you just don't get it, do you? Something I just learned recently from Conan's podcast is that Dr. Evil's accent is Mike Myers imitating Lorne Michaels. Ultron really could have taken Vision's body. Twice he attempted the download and got over 50-60% in pretty quick time. There was no real need to disconnect himself just because the Avengers were in the area. Lock the door and finish it off. Without Vision they had no chance of winning. I still think Ultron is alive because it's freaking Ultron. It's because of Wesker's intense hatred of Chris that he spends so much time mocking and toying with him in Resident Evil 5. If it were anyone else, he'd probably have killed them without much fanfare and gone on to enact his plan unchallenged. He underestimated Chris's deep hatred of boulders. Dude, straight up this. Like a lot of video game answers are sort of bad examples because characters don't really have character, right? Like oh no, the bad guy did something stupid and it let us win. Why'd he do that? But Wesker in Re 5? Dude fully and totally has a developed character flaw that only triggers when Chris is in play. https://www.youtube.com watch v equals f4qwfdpzcn8 like. Legit. 110. Wesker has Chris dead to rights. Shiva cannot help at that point. All he needs to do is pull the trigger. But he can't just kill Chris. He needs Chris to despair. To understand the futility of trying to fight him. And that Chris absolutely needs to know that Wesker beat him fully and totally. He has 10 seconds of just standing there where he could kill Chris but won't because he needs to punish Chris. Not just kill him. Palpatine literally announced he was back. To the entire galaxy, like 1 week before his fleet was ready to dominate them all. Why didn't he just wait 1 week? Nobody would have known he was even coming. They could never have stopped him. Or at least had a defensive perimeter. He had thousands of Star Destroyers with planet-killing super weapons. But he couldn't have at least 10 on patrol, would have made quick work of the pathetic resistance fleet and done serious damage to the larger vessels of the civilian fleet. Yeah, and he announced he was back a week before the movie came out too. Seriously, what the frick were they thinking? Putting a key piece of their movie's plot in Fortnite? Isma could have just killed Kuzco while he was unconscious in the palace. You mean, if they had the poison for Kuzco? No. He's got a point. Mr. Burns shouldn't have gone for the candy. Maggie made sure he wouldn't try that shoot again. I was living in England at the time when this episode premiered, but it would have taken weeks for the reveal to come when it already aired in the US. So a friend of a friend of a friend got their hands on a bootleg VHS with the episode on it. It was shoot quality, but at least we finally got know who shot Mr. Burns. Oh boy. Even 8-year-old me was like WTF. Firelord Jose challenged the Avatar to a 1v1 and was surprised when he got folded like an omelette. To be fair, he was winning for a little bit, but Ong was saved by the Avatar state. Jose had a good reason to be confident. He was powered up by a super comet in the sky and going against a 12-13-year-old boy, even if he was the Avatar. At first glance that almost seems unfair in his favor. Every video game villain, just keep that first key in your pocket instead of leaving it somewhere the hero can find it. Wait, when you go on vacation you don't create elaborate mazes and puzzles and hide your keys in various chests at the end of them. I wonder if the Prophet of Truth would have won if he didn't conspire against the other hierarchs, the Council, and the entire elite faction of the Covenant military, Voldemort. He decided to hide his Horcruxes on places that had significance to him. All he had to do was hide it at the bottom of the ocean, or bury it in some random forest, or put it in a volcano or something. If he did that, well then Harry and co would have had a tough time destroying them. Dude could have just exercised and eaten right if he wanted to live longer SMH. I appreciate the one fanfic where Voldemort made Pioneer 11 one of his Horcruxes shortly before it was launched. Every villain that decides to describe their plan right before they are about to win. This is why I love the twist of Ozymandias and the Watchman explaining his grand plan, then revealing that he is not stupid. There's nothing they can do. He set off the explosions 20 minutes before talking about his plan. You sly dog. You got me monologuing. Right, double quotation mark. Plankton and almost every freaking episode edit. Thanks for the upvotes. I love you all, even Plankton himself and his Karen wife. I think he should just buy a burger dissector to see how to make the formula. He has a supercomputer for a wife. Nah, Plankton can never win. Regardless of his plan. Even if he successfully finds out the formula, he still can't win. It's clearly stated in at least one episode that the formula is protected by law and that duplication is prohibited. So even if Plankton never got his hands on the formula and made a Krabby Patty, he'd immediately be shut down and arrested, and the chum bucket would be put out of business. Granted, something like his plan in the movie kinda sidesteps that, but for normal episodes, he can't win regardless of what he does. Soren. This is nothing against LOTR. This is an intentional character flaw. But the Mythofrica couldn't even comprehend that someone might want to destroy the ring instead of use it. He was so sure that someone would try to weaponize the ring that Aragorn had only to show his face, and Soren goes, he must have the ring. It's not until the very moment that the ring hits lava that he finally realizes how bad he fricked up. And he gets 30 seconds to think about how the last 1,000 years have all been an excruciating waste of time. Actually, since Soren doesn't die, but is instead reduced to a powerless immortal shade, he has all of time to contemplate it. He was right though. The only reason the ring went into the lava was because Gollum fell in. Frodo wasn't going to relinquish it. If you're talking about the general concept of destroying it, he definitely knew about that. The reason he responded to Aragorn so hard was because Aragorn flashed a shot of Narsil before magically bitch-slapping him. This meant that Aragorn had either the power of the One Ring, or a strong Númenórean vibe. The Decepticons. So often their plans were quite good but were thwarted by plot armor and Deus Ex Machina. At any time, retrying most of their plans would likely have resulted in their winning. They wouldn't have even needed any of that if Starscream, in the very first episode, fricked around and it caused the Autobots to be revived out of stasis.